All right, everyone, welcome back to episode 91 of the Hops and Bops podcast. I am Tom, and we're doing something we haven't done in a while. We're having a sit-down interview with an artist. This time we're having the one and only KNoWTe, also known as Jahvon. He is one of my good friends from college. That's how we met. His newest album, Trust the Process, is coming out July 9th, correct?
July 8th.
Oh, July 8th, excuse me.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a big weekend. I'm very excited. Jahvon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, Tom. Great to see you. We were talking a little bit before the recording started, and it's just, exciting to come full circle. It's been like we said, like a year since we've seen each other, walk the graduation thing, and the fact that, you have 90 episodes deep, and that's crazy. I didn't know that was the number, so that's super cool to hear.
That's right, yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're pushing 100. It's gonna be a big episode. Can't wait.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, let's jump into it. I'm very excited to get to talking to you. So yeah, like we said, we kind of met. We're both audio engineers from the one and only University of Hartford. There's no other one like it. And we both kind of met through classes and getting to know each other, mutual friends here and there. I think we've been in the studio at least once together.
Once or twice, a few times. The audio engineering program at the university is very tight knit. There's not a lot, at least at the time we came in, there wasn't a lot of us. I've heard it's grown since, which is amazing to see. But we've crossed paths in the studio before. I think at least shared one session.
Oh yeah, a couple times, yeah. But yeah, you've definitely grown a lot. Kind of getting up from there, getting to know you a bit as an artist. This will be now your fourth full-length album, correct?
I believe so. At this point, I've lost kind of track. Been doing this so long. I've been putting together projects since I've been 16. So although there's like probably 4 out for people to see, there were like 1 or 2 others that
Really?
I did. When I was first starting up, that when I wanted to rebrand and really take this seriously, I was like, okay, I kind of need to shed that baby weight, so to speak, and really try to level up.
Yeah, that's a tough thing too, especially when you're kind of building your own name as an artist. And I've seen this with a couple people where they maybe not like they're not proud of some of their younger stuff, but they're kind of wanting to get a bigger or different audience. They kind of have to shift some of their discography around. So I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you love that time period. It's the growth period. It's the period where you're just putting out music just to see what worked. It was the stepping stone. And now that you've stepped to at least the first floor, you were in the basement, literally sometimes. Now that you've stepped to at least the first floor, you're like, okay, that basement era is always part of me. It will always be part of who I am. But, time to shut the door and continue to climb.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, I think Jahvon, or I think KNoWTe, excuse me. I don't want to call you by your first name too much.
You're fine.
I think KNoWTe's a great artist, great person, very smart, very talented person as well. I don't want to toot your own horn as well. But I've seen you live at least once, maybe twice. I think it was right before the pandemic. I think like January of 2020. So I think it was like the Webster Underground, something like that.
Yes, I think it was the Webster Underground. We did a artist showcase for this promoter at the time, Concert Crave, who's grown and done amazing things since. But that was the last time you saw me. And even then, I look back at that film and I'm like, wow, just how far I've come since. And like, I'm excited to hopefully next time I get a show in CT, you can come out.
Hell yeah. I'll definitely be there for that one.
Yeah.
No, that was a great show. You were like one of the first ones up, and I remember the crowd feeling out of like 10 or 12 performers that night too.
Yeah, there was like 10 or 12 performers. They told me that day, they're like, oh, you're going to open this whole thing. And I was like shaking in my boots because it was the biggest, crowd I've been part of. Like the Webster Underground is iconic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it was interesting that I walk in, they're like, you're opening. I'm like, okay. And I was just pacing outside. I think you saw me pacing as you were coming in. But all worked out. As soon as I got on stage, the nerves went away and it was a good time.
Yeah, that's something with performing that I've definitely noticed, is that especially when it's a bigger audience like that, you, especially right beforehand, you get those huge nerves and jitters, and then as soon as you
Mhm.
step on stage, most of it just melts away. You know,
Yeah,
you
you
kind of have to
lose yourself
feed,
in it.
off of the audience's like good vibes as well. And especially for your show, you have such a pretty devoted fan base that they were singing the song, the words with you as well, you know.
Which was like such a
Oh,
surreal
take this work.
experience. All I do is
Put him in the dirt. Yeah,
dirt.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, it's just the simple fact that like, we talked at the beginning of this, like that initial stepping stone from the basement to the first floor will always be part of you. So like the fact that I just reminisce being in, the basement with like, barely a setup, like, putting up whatever I had, just to create a sound to the point where you're still reciting the lyrics by
Yeah.
memory. That's so cool to me.
Yeah, no, it was such a good show, so memorable that kind of just like buried itself in my brain, you know. So it was awesome.
Awesome.
So let's jump now to your new album, Trust the
Mhm.
Process. Um, in terms of music wise, or at least influence wise, what makes this album, in your opinion, stand out from the rest of your albums in your discography?
I think that this album stands out in the fact that, it's been a whole process. Like this project took about 2 years to put
Oh
together.
wow.
So it's been a long time coming. A different project came out during the same time that was almost gonna be like, so those records on My Obsession were
Hmm.
gonna be on Trust the Process, but just didn't fit right. And so I really
Hmm.
took the time to devote to this project, rewriting, revising, adding records, dropping records, remixing records to really try to sonically, tell a story, tell a process, tell something different than what have been spoken, about before. One of my bigger projects, 2020, that came out, you know, the year 2020.
Yeah.
Everything ended up shutting down that year, but that project was kind of a culmination of everything I learned in college. So it was that stepping stone. This one wanted to be everything I've learned in life since then. College, you're in a very protected sphere.
Hmm.
Once you're out of college, and they always tell you, like, once you're out of that little bubble, life really hits, and you're like, yeah, I can handle it. But when it hit hard. And especially for our class who graduated straight into a once in a lifetime pandemic, it
Yeah.
hit harder than ever. So I just really took the time to perfect this project, to rewrite, as well as just like sonically find my voice and sonically find a voice that, resonates with others, as well as, shows the growth. 'Cause like I said, I started writing this at 22. I'm 24 now. A lot's changed since, and the sound is heavy, and yeah, just spent a lot of time on it and sonically try to shift things around.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I love to see the artistic growth. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So now on a bit of a macro level, I want to talk about
Mhm.
your songwriting process
Yes.
in a way. So when you get that first spark of inspiration, where do you turn first? Do you go more towards the lyric side,
Mhm.
or do you do a bit of the production side? Which kind of comes first? Just off the first bat, you're like, oh man, I gotta write a song right now. Like what comes first for you?
Because I've been working with other producers, which I've been very, very thankful to have. Jacob Zorger, Will Stenson, Marty
Hmm.
McFly, and then one other. I'm sure I'll remember their name. And when you hear this, I'm sorry if I forgot. I'm gonna remember. I'm gonna shout you out. Don't worry. But I've been, blessed enough to work with producers who have their own voice, as well sonically. So they'll send me some beats, and typically when I'm feeling that vote of inspiration, I just try to get concepts down. I don't really write lyrics right away. I
Hmm.
just write concepts. So, this is the style I want to talk about. This is the topic. This is whatever. And then once I have the concept down, I will then try to flesh it out with bullet points. I'll just add bullet points of, okay, at verse 1, this is kind of the mood I want to tell. By verse 2, I want to kind of be in this sphere, and so on and so forth in each section. And then I then try to shift that into the instrumental, which is when all the producers come in. I listen to the packs of instrumentals they send and try to see, okay, this voice, this moment in my life, I want to display as lyrics, what sonically fits that. And then from there, I start diving deep in the lyrics. And then sometimes the bullet points change, the story evolves. I just really try to not be too straightforward. I really try to trust the process of the song
Oh, nice.
to tell me where to go rather than forcing something in. So yeah.
That's great. I love getting that insight, especially from a creative standpoint, because so many people have different ways of songwriting. And even I have my friend's band is they did it all like virtually because it was during the pandemic. So every album I think is got a little bit of that different flair to it, whether it's where you are headspace wise or physically. That really adds a little bit of creative spice onto each album. So that's cool.
Yeah, thankfully I'm a solo artist.
Yeah.
In terms of like instrumentation, it's really just people sending files. I couldn't imagine being like in a band where you got multiple heads in different states or even different time zones.
Yeah.
So I commend all the artists who stayed creative as a band and together to create music. Like I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. And one huge aspect of the music industry is doing a lot of live touring and performances. So to be this up and coming artist during the pandemic era, which is still kind of happening, it's got to be incredibly difficult. So can you speak a little bit about on that? Even having an album coming out right during the middle of quarantine is got to be pretty fun for you, isn't it?
Yeah, everything shifted. So I am a performance artist first. One of my biggest inspirations, 21 Pilots, that got me into music initially was the song Car Radio that just spoke to me. It made me go, I want to make music. That impact and feeling that I have here is the same impact I want to give out. So with that said, I lost my train of thought. Wow. Performing. I'm a performing artist. And that's where the inspiration comes from. So right before the pandemic hit, I was performing. I even got I opened for Cameron went from the
That's
Webster
right.
Underground. I went from the Webster Underground to the Webster main stage and got to open for Cameron. The promoter loved me. And they were like, oh, we have a bunch of shows lined up in CT, Jersey, New York. Like, we love how you perform, would love to carry you on. And they set up performances for like Lil TJ,
Wow.
was it Rod Wave, that at the time, who was big. And I was like, oh, sweet. And then the pandemic hit. So I really felt the effects of how do I transition? So from there, I just tried to develop content from that day forward and try to develop a virtual voice, a virtual performance to try to still have that same level of impact as I did on the stage. It's a hard process. It's something I'm still figuring out, but I think this time around, as things are opening up and people are hungry to get outside, it's been easier. I've been able to land some in-person performances, but I landed them because of the online presence. Before it was the performances landed you the next performance. Now it's your online presence gets you the performance, and then you got to go back and keep the online presence to continue to get the next performance. So it went from like real world navigation to like virtual navigation and networking, and it's a skill set I'm still trying to perfect.
Yeah, a lot of the musical landscape has shifted so much in the last not even 5 years, like the last just handful of years, with art, with platforms like TikTok just blowing up different
Yes.
artists or whatever it may be. And I've seen you a lot of times on my For You page, just
That's
kind of
awesome.
doing your own thing or freestyling or finding a beat and doing a duet with it. So can you
Mhm.
speak a little bit on how your process of creating digital content has worked for you? Because I know I've made TikTok stuff
Mhm.
here and there, and it's hard. It's definitely a lot of work to put in.
Yeah, TikTok, I think, is one of the most advantageous platforms, but one of the most difficult platforms at the same time because there's so many people doing it, and people like TikTok is catered to quick content. It's been very difficult. It's just really about trying to get in front of the right audience, I've noticed. When I initially was creating TikTok content, I was just trying to do like the typical, for you page, like hashtag FYP, hashtag viral, like, and it gets you in front of the general audience. And sometimes when you are in front of the general audience, you may not get the response you're looking for, whether it's, hateful comments or no interaction at all. So I started tailoring my content more, and I've noticed I've gotten a better response since. And I've also realized TikTok is all about your editing skills. If your editing skills are not on point, you could be the best artist, you could have the best content, but if your editing skills aren't on point, people just will skip it or just not like it. It's we're visual people, I've
It's
noticed.
yeah, it's crazy. And that it's just another layer of so many different kind of skill sets you need to be in order to have a successful music career. Like you
Yeah.
when you first started, you never thought like, oh, I needed to be a good video editor in order to get like popular.
No
It's so weird.
idea. No idea. I literally thought, okay, all I got to do is record my music and maybe like mix it, or
Hmm.
maybe I'll tap in with a producer. But you got to be your own artist, sometimes your own producer, your own mixing engineer, mastering engineer, content creator, content writer, marketer, manager. It just
It's
goes on. A video edit. It goes on and on and on.
yeah.
And I'm thankful for the skill set I've acquired since then. But I won't lie if that doesn't like. I'm lying if I'm saying it doesn't make me tired. You know
No,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? It
Yeah.
burns you out, and so this project, I really tried to rely on the people around me, and that was able to build a bigger voice than myself. My other projects were very, one track mind, were very just like me and maybe one other person, but I really drove the bus. This
Hmm.
time around, I tried to let other voices come in and talk and add their own take on the project, and it just allowed it to have a larger voice than just myself.
Hmm. That's something we should probably speak on too. I'm not like incredibly deep into your album
Mhm.
discography, but I feel like on this album you have a lot more like featured artists.
Mhm.
So talk to me a little bit about bringing in different voices and how that kind of plays along with your style as well.
Yeah, so it was really interesting as I was going through it. I again was very one track mind, and it was 2 years putting together this project. So as I was listening to it, because I've listened to this thing probably like way more times than I can count, like ridiculous amount of times. And as I was listening to it, I was like, we need other voices here, literally other voices. Someone else could probably pull a emotion out of this that I'm not seeing. So we went to like my girlfriend Aria. She's an amazing vocalist. She's been featured
Hmm.
on some of my other tracks. Anytime I need some, quick female vocal, solid vocal, she's always right there. So she's typically featured on my projects. Saint Wave, who I met through a collective called 9-2, who Marty McFly is a producer for 9-2, and that's how
Hmm.
we all got connected. He, again, just brings in a whole nother level. He's more ethereal, he's more vibey. And so it balances sometimes my in your face lyricism sometimes to just go, you know what? Like I said, like let the song speak. And so peel back to someone who really lets the song speak. And then one person that I'm sure that people are going to be surprised by when they hear this or when they see the track list is Death Wish. That feature I was incredibly excited for when I hit him up, and he was willing to lend his vocals, lend his ear. Definitely a heavier track, and I always like teetering that line of genre. Linkin Park is also, I listened to a lot of Linkin Park when I was putting together that track,
Hmm.
so it pulled the rock influences, hence why, Death Wish ended up coming on for the album.
Yeah, that's something I noticed when I listened to that track too. So it's funny you brought that up. um, Speaking of different artists, I've always been interested when I speak to any artist,
Mhm.
just purely on their influences, because I feel like whenever you hear an artist, you can be like, oh, that sounds like this other artist, or this has this kind of style to it, but not necessarily the exact same thing as theirs.
Mhm.
And I think that's for any person that creates music. And when they listen to a song when they're younger, or they have a favorite artist, that kind of becomes who you are in a sense. Obviously, everyone's their own individual.
Yeah.
So in your own musical journey, who do you think are some of your bigger influences that really show their way into your music?
I would say 21 Pilots,
Hmm.
always there. Anytime I write a song, I write it for the live performance. I write it for how would this sound in a live performance? Like, how would I interact with the audience here? How would the audience, receive the music and stuff like that? So I always try to write music for the live performance. I love live performances. So 21 Pilots is always a big inspiration. Leaning more towards rap inspirations. Joyner Lucas, an amazing lyricist, amazing storyteller. So on the more storytelling tracks, I was definitely trying to pull from the Joyner Lucas inspiration. The intricate rhyme schemes. You get Royce the 5'9",
Oh yeah.
Eminem, stuff like that, especially Royce. I feel like Royce really, really nails that intricate, rhyme scheme,
Hmm.
while still keeping like a really, cool rhythm, that people really can like catch on and hear every bar as they're coming. So Royce, and then like I said, I listen to like I grew up listening to a lot of alternative music. I'm sure like a lot of people who are into music, they went through an alternative phase.
Hmm.
So in high school, I was listening to a lot of like A Day to Remember,
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah, Sleeping with Sirens,
Hmm.
and like the list goes on. So I always try to pull like a little bit of rock influences just because of my performance style, so high energy bass. And that's how the song with Death Wish came into play. So it's like a hybrid of like rock music meets lyricists meets just fun music to come out and enjoy in a live experience.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much like the perfect mashup for that song with
Mhm.
Death Wish. That's pretty much the main three things that I picked up on.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't want to make you pick favorites or anything, and I know what my favorite is. What do you think is maybe not your most listened to track, but one
Mhm.
that you have like the what's a good way of putting it? I guess yeah. What's your favorite track? That's just the easiest way to put that question.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because that question is always so like nuanced
Exactly.
because I haven't gotten the chance to perform these tracks yet.
Hmm.
Because at the time we're recording this, the project ain't even out yet. It comes out
Yeah.
July 8th. So anything post July 8th is when I'll get the opportunity to perform these tracks. So I typically like every project have a favorite track I like to perform. So I don't know the answer to that one yet, but the one I always love listening to is really like Trust the Process.
Yeah.
It's the focal point of the whole project, and that one I actually did get the opportunity to perform. I've actually been performing that track for the past year, getting certain responses and even rewrote certain sections because I was like, oh, I didn't hit with the audience that way. So it got a live opportunity to go through the ringer with an audience. But yeah, Trust the Process is one of my favorite tracks on the album because it just really, tells the story of how the process went from A to Z. as well as it has a great performance aspect, call and response that people really rock with.
Hmm.
So yeah, trust the process. It's my personal favorite for now. Guarantee when the project comes out, I'm gonna listen to it for the 200th time and I'll be like, nah, it's really this one, you know.
Yeah, yeah. That's so true. Like it's like picking your favorite child. Like it's impossible.
Really? Yeah, yeah. Because like each week as I was putting it together, I'm like, "Oh, this song's my favorite. Oh, this song's my favorite." But
Hmm.
it was always the song I was working on at that moment. But now that it's all together, I'm excited to see, you know, what other people thought was their favorite. So I always try to bring a thematic element to tell a story. I miss the records, and I still listen to a lot of early 2000s records because they did that perfectly and beautifully. Is they always try to add certain skits to tell a story or tie certain things together.
Hmm.
I feel as though skits, you know, if done correctly, can help really take a project, you know, or a collection of songs and bring it to an album, you know, bring it
Hmm.
to a body of work. There's a difference between a collection of songs and a body of work, and that's what I really tried to focus on when adding those elements.
Yeah, that's something we talk about on the podcast a lot is
Mhm.
track placements and just overall vibe of the album when you're listening from front to end because
Mhm.
like exactly like you said, there's you just have an album that maybe can just feel like a playlist or just like a vibe when you put it on, you're scrolling Twitter or whatever, like not really paying attention. And then you have tracks that almost make you feel like you're sitting down and watching a movie, whether,
Yes.
whether it's albums like, To Pimp a Butterfly, for example, which is one of my
Yes.
favorite albums of all time, where it's so dense and if you put it on shuffle, like you're listening to it wrong, like it almost
Mhm.
feels like you're
You're
sinning
doing
or
a
something.
disservice. Yeah, you're literally
Yeah.
doing a disservice to the project. Like the art of like putting together a track list and putting together a project from front to end has been lost. And I appreciate the fact that artists like Kendrick keep it alive because it again like brings everything full circle. You're listening to a movie, you're listening to a whole
Hmm.
story, and a whole team goes into it to put together a project. So when you're listening out of order, it does do a lot of albums a disservice.
Yeah.
So when I'm listening to an album for the first time, I do turn off my shuffle. The second time around, the shuffle's on.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Once you get
Yeah,
a good feel for it, then you can kind of go back and get a different, taste for it.
yeah.
But that's something I've always admired when doing these kind of album listen throughs is that you'll know certain artists are just kind of phoning it in when they have,
Hmm.
they don't really trim the fat on some of the albums where you get like 2.5 hours of just options to fill a playlist with for certain people. Like that's basically the end goal, which I think is kind of ruining parts of the music industry. Is just
Yeah.
you'll get 2.5 hour albums from like Migos or like Chris Brown or something like that, where they're just trying to like put this on Rap Caviar or something like that. So to see artists like you, for example, actually sitting down and crafting a listening experience that actually comes out pretty well is good. It's good artistry, and that's something that I think is being lost on the newer generation.
Yeah, I don't write for a playlist. I write
Exactly.
for an experience, like you said. Nowadays, people write for the viral video. People write for the playlist. It don't get me wrong. It's great getting on a playlist. That's the exposure you want. But I feel as though if you're gonna put out a project, that's something you do with a single. You write for the
Hmm.
playlist. That's fine. But if you're gonna put together a body of work, really take the time to make it a body of work. Otherwise, call it a mixtape. You know, people can
Yeah.
just vibe to it and just have a good time. But I've always albums that have stuck with me and albums that have long lasting value in the industry have been ones that people took the time to create a body of work so that somebody walks away with an emotion, good, bad, or indifferent.
Hmm. Yeah, no, yeah. I've always appreciated that because I mean, what we do here is we sit down and listen to albums. We don't really
Mhm,
do, singles, or sometimes we'll do like playlist selections.
mhm.
But that's usually like a one-off kind of thing. So
Yeah.
getting that album experience, listening all the way through is something that it's a totally different experience than just pressing play on some kind of generated playlist and then just not really focusing. So that's definitely something really, really cool that I appreciate heavily.
Thank you.
Another thing we can talk on the album cover itself. So I
Yes.
caught this TikTok I think a while ago from you where you gave your audience 4 different options and had them pick what the album cover is going to be, which is something I don't think I've really seen too much in the past. So can you speak a little bit on that kind of process and why you went with that?
Yeah, so I'm an extreme perfectionist. Kind of the reason why it took 2 years to put together.
Yep.
I feel as though it was worth it. And then on my last album was called My Obsession. I just obsess over making sure everything's perfect, and sometimes I can get in my own way. So what I tried to do this time around is I created like 12 different cover arts. I had a personal favorite. I sat with my team when I did a listening through. They gave me some notes on the album, rearranged things, and then I showed them the cover art. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be the cover art. And they were like, no,
Oh,
no,
wow.
we don't like it. I was
Okay.
like, okay, well, what about this one? And they're like, okay, I like elements of this one, but try this, try that, da da da. And I was like, okay. So I took their opinion and I showed my family, and I was like, I showed them my personal favorite again, and they were like, yeah, we don't like that one. I'm like, everyone hates everyone. I was like, okay, so we're just gonna retry everything. So I boiled it down from 12 with a personal favorite to 4 that I still rocked with. And from there, I was like, you know what? This album is titled Trust the Process. So it's built on trust. And, the only way to receive trust is to give trust. You got, you,
Yeah.
you got it. It's a give and take. So, my audience, they're called the Worthy Family. They're family to me. And I trust and love my family. So I decided, you know what? It's going to be in all of your guys' hands. So I gave them 4 different options. They voted on it. They picked their favorite, and I ended up being, this one, which I was rooting for in the back end. So no, it stands out. It has a good balance while still giving that like eye catching, like what is this? So the family did an amazing job.
Yeah. Yeah. Good choices for them. Um, yeah, I think I guess I can jump into what my favorite track was. I really liked A Love Like with
Yeah.
Saint Wave. That was my favorite track. It had this really cool, like moody trap style. And I love Saint Wave. I think their feature was definitely added a lot. And so, especially when you're a solo artist,
Hmm.
bringing in those extra voices to not necessarily fill out, but give you that little bit of different flavor here and there. Um, I think definitely added a lot. So that one was my favorite. It almost sounded like a bit of a trippier, like Travis Scott kind of style to it. It was I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Saint Wave, an amazing artist, super dope.
Hmm.
One of my close friends. I'll tell you a story, real quick. That song was the last one to make it.
Really?
When I listened to it, it was me and my team. Wave was there, Key Story, Aria, and Sparrow. We were all sitting in the studio listening through the album, and I had 15 tracks.
Hmm.
Um, Out of the 15, there was one that everyone was like, "That's not it." And I was like, really? Which I wasn't really feeling too much anyway. So I'm like, you know what? I hear you. But I was like, I really want 15. I feel like 15 is a nice round. You have 3
Yeah.
skits. That's roughly 12 songs. That's a good balance. So they were like, well, do you have another song? I was like, well, I have this one that has like a scratch vocal on it. I don't really know what to do, but there's this one. But I feel like I need to re-record it. I'm not feeling it. I showed them and they were like, that's the one. That is it. I'm like, okay. But I need somebody to help me with the chorus. And Wave was like, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do your chorus. He was like, send it to me. I want to be on that song. So I sent it to him. And literally, I think like 2 to maybe 2.5 weeks ago, the song was finished. So it's
Wow.
literally just made the cut. So that's awesome to hear that that one was your favorite.
Yeah.
So project. So, shout out to the team making a good decision on that one.
Yeah, that one really stuck out to me for some reason. I don't know why. It kind of got like an earworm hook, kind of just kept like I mean, I haven't listened to it nearly as much as I want to. I'm probably going to listen, a couple more times after this just to kind of get a better feel for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one I don't know why it stuck out to me like a good thing that sticks out, I guess. I was gonna say like
Good
a sore
metaphor.
thumb. I was gonna say like a sore thumb, but I was like, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
No, it was great. That was my favorite track. So
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, usually we rate albums, but I don't want to rate the album in front of you because I feel like that's a weird thing to do, and also I haven't listened to it nearly as much as
Yeah.
I wanted to. So maybe we come back at a later date. We can kind of iron out what the actual rating is. But I really do
Yeah.
enjoy this album, man. It's it has such a good like flow to it. I love how it starts and how it ends. It's just the listening experience, like we said before, is really really solid. And just kind of getting your insight into some more of these tracks really added a lot for me as well. So thank you for that. And
I'm glad you rock with it.
of
You're one of the
course,
first people. So you got like the exclusive weeks before
wow,
anyone else. You're one of the first people outside the core team and the core family to really hear the album. So I'm happy to hear you rock with it. And I'm excited to see what you end up rating it later on.
yeah.
Like, I really should be really cool.
Yeah. This is I feel like an insider, like some kind of weird music insider. It's cool.
Well, you are. You know what?
Technically,
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I've gotten an album beforehand and before it actually comes out. So that's definitely a very interesting experience too. But yeah, the album Trust the Process comes out July 8th, right? I
Yes.
got that correct? Yes.
Yes, it comes out July 8th. People will be able to pre-save it June 24th, which I believe by the time this episode comes out,
Yes.
they'll be already be able to pre-save it. Real quick, I do have a show. So this show is presented by myself in Signature Series. It's going to be August 12th in Torrington, Connecticut at the Outlet for the Arts. Have a bunch of cool artists: Key Story, Saint Wave, Gino Ferrero, The Human Fund, Heart
Wow.
Shaped Lakes, Frass as Hell. So many really dope artists are going to be on this bill. So if you're in the CT area, New York area, definitely come out to the show. Feel free to hit me up for more details. And that's one of the big ones that's coming in August.
Awesome. Yeah. Go check him out. That he's actually a fantastic live performer. Like I said, I've seen him live at least once or twice. So I can back that up. So yeah, everyone go check it out. Obviously it's not going to come out just yet, but July 8th should be on all streaming services, right?
Yes, it'll be on all streaming services. Wherever you digest music, that's where it'll be.
Yeah. Got any like music videos coming out or anything or?
Yes, actually.
Ooh, okay.
There will be a music video that comes out with this project. I won't tell you what track just yet, but there
Ooh,
will be a
okay.
music video that comes out with this project, actually two. So
Oh,
be on the lookout for that as well.
awesome. I'm very excited for that. So can't wait to check that out.
Mm.
But yeah, this has been episode 91 of the Hops and Bops podcast. I just want to give a huge thank you to my very good friend KNoWTe, aka Jahvon, for coming on. Very, very great guy, super talented, very smart, very generous and personal. And I can't think of anyone better to have on as a guest. So definitely go give it a listen when it comes out. And Jahvon, thank you so much for coming on again.
Of course. No, thank you for having me, Tom. Just, to toss some love out to you.
Oh,
Always one of the most honest, caring, loving people I know. Excited that you were one of the first people to listen to the album.
yeah.
You give honest feedback. So to hear that you rock with it and you're sharing it with your listeners, means a ton. It got the Hops and Bops sign of approval. So
Stamp it down, baby.
stamp it down. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on. We really do appreciate it. So yeah. Episode 92 comes out next week. I will be doing another interview, actually, surprisingly, with the one and only Gravis. A couple friends that I grew up with actually will be on as well. So that'll be a fun one as well. I'm kind of honing my interviewer skills. I've never really done anything like this before. So
it reminded me real quick. If you want to follow me on anything, it's
yes.
at KNoWTe.
Yes.
KNoWTE_worthy. Noteworthy. Follow me there.
You give the boy follow. Yeah. Definitely worth it. So yeah, this has been episode 91. Thank you guys for listening. Yeah, we'll see you next Sunday for another episode. Hops and Bops podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. You can pretty much find us. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the good socials at Hops and Bops podcast. And we will see you next week. Thank you so much for hopping on and talking to me.
Yeah, of course.
All right, see you guys later. Peace.